Breaking tonight on ABC News Live Prime, the historic bomb cyclone blizzard slamming the Northeast, breaking records and bringing cities to a halt.
I'm Matt Rivers in Boston, where whiteout conditions stretch from here to New York City to Philadelphia. States of emergency declared in just about every place along the I-95 corridor, as more than 2 feet of snow have fallen in some places.
I'm Gio Benitez at JFK Airport. The travel nightmare across the country. Thousands of flights grounded at major airports. How long will it take to get back on schedule?
I'm Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z, and we are not quite done with snow this week. I will track the next systems on the way.
New video of the military operation targeting and killing Mexico's most wanted cartel leader. Violence erupts in popular tourist areas, and Americans are warned to shelter in place. Rob Reiner's son, Nick Reiner, pleads not guilty to murdering his parents. We go inside the courtroom. The BBC under fire following the BAFTAs after several outbursts. Critics are now asking why they were not edited out. Tomorrow marks 4 years of war in Ukraine, and the country is facing their worst winter yet. Inside, life without heat, water, and power in sub-zero temperatures.
The temperatures are too low, so when the workers try to restart the system of the heating, you see how pipes broke.
And on the eve of the State of the Union, our look at the promise of the American dream. We traveled across the country hearing from everyday Americans. Would you say that you feel you're living paycheck to paycheck?
Absolutely. I don't know anyone that's not living paycheck to paycheck.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We begin with that historic bomb cyclone blizzard that has slammed the Northeast. The storm shattered snow records in parts of New York and Rhode Island. From New Jersey to Massachusetts, more than 2 feet of snow has been reported. More than 500,000 customers are still without power, with the worst outages in Massachusetts, New Jersey, Delaware, and Rhode Island. The monster storm paralyzed travel, with thousands of flights grounded in the Northeast. And it's not over yet, folks. More snow is potentially on the way this week. We have team storm coverage. Gio Benitez is at JFK Airport tracking flights. Ginger Z is standing by with the latest forecast. But first, Matt Rivers leads us off from hard-hit Boston.
Tonight, from a blinding whiteout in New York City to more than a foot in Philadelphia and up to 2 feet expected in Boston, it's a record-breaking bomb cyclone blizzard that's far from finished.
I don't know if you can even see me. The wind is brutal. I couldn't even get the car door open to get out to show you the conditions.
Reporters Rondella Richardson and Ted Wayman from ABC Boston station WCVB braving hurricane-force wind gusts and even lightning and thunder along the Massachusetts coast before dawn.
Thunder snow just happened again live. It's a fascinating occurrence. The sky turns into this majestic purple as we have heavy winds and thunder snow happening at this hour.
Outside Boston in Quincy, cars sliding and fishtailing, many needing a push to get going again. Even the power trucks and ambulances got stuck. First responders forced to dig this one out of deep snow with help from Good Samaritans. Downtown Boston is a ghost town today. Wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour. It's basically snowing sideways. Right now it's 3 p.m. Roughly 300,000 customers statewide without power. Snow falling at almost unheard of 3 inches an hour in New York City. City officials banning all non-essential motor vehicles for much of the morning.
As of 12:30 p.m., DSNY has distributed over 50 million pounds of salt and plowed over 99.5% of city streets at least once.
New York's firefighters also battling snow and fires. Flames shooting from this manhole near New York's Hudson Yards. The heavy, wet snow toppling trees across the Northeast. More than 300 reported down across New York City. Our Rhiannon Alley in Greenwich Village.
This heavy wet snow has snapped tree branches, this one blocking this street here in Manhattan, even falling into this car.
Blizzard warnings stretching some 600 miles up and down the I-95 corridor. And Providence, Rhode Island, reporting a record-breaking 32-plus inches of snow, the most in the region so far. Conditions so bad, authorities had to halt plowing operations for a time, and tonight, the snow is still coming.
Just relentless there. Matt Rivers joins us now from Boston. And Matt, I know you've been out in the elements all day today. Are conditions seemingly getting any better where you are?
Slow but sure, Lindsay, no question about it. The snow is definitely slowing down, but the winds remain strong, which means that blowing snow, like you're seeing right now, will remain an issue well into tomorrow. It is why the government here is asking people across the state to please stay at home. Just because the storm is winding down, Lindsay, does not mean that it's over yet.
Good point for us all. Matt Rivers, thanks so much. And let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Zee, who is tracking, I hate to say it, Ginger, 2 more snowstorms on the way.
Yes, they are nothing like this one, so that's the good news. But Lindsay, behind me, the 1.5 feet plus of snow on top of those cars, the whole line of them there, and it is already melting. I guess that's the good news. We're above freezing as we speak, and much of this week will stay that way. I'll show you those numbers. But first, let's look back at what's still happening and what has happened already with the storm. We still have blizzard warnings from Rhode Island and eastern Massachusetts, right up through coastal New Hampshire and Maine. But some of those totals, not just wow and epic, but historic. Providence, Rhode Island, the highest they've ever seen, and that will still be going up because that was even from hours ago, so we'll get an update there. Islip, New York, 29.1 inches, the most they've ever had. Second highest snow total for Newark, New Jersey on record. Central Park and Philadelphia both had the biggest in a decade. So this was an impressive storm, obviously, but it will be pulling away in the next couple hours. We'll invite our next one through Tuesday night through Wednesday morning. It will be very light, especially for the areas that were just so hard hit. So don't look for a lot of snow out of that. I just want everyone to not, worry when they see some flakes flying. Less than an inch for most folks at the coast, but you're looking for 3 to 6 inches if you go farther west. And then Thursday night through Friday is the next best chance at seeing precipitation. And I'm using that word instead of just snow because that rain snow line is going to be really close to New York City. So there's a potential we just stay all rain with that one. We'll have to get a little bit closer to see exactly. And either way, it would not leave that much behind. And again, I can't emphasize enough, we are above the freezing mark as I stand here. And throughout much of this week, we will be seeing above freezing temperatures. Now, granted, we should be warmer than this time of year. Average is in the mid-40s, so we will be below average. But hey, we will see melting more quickly than we did last time.
Less than 4 weeks away from spring, and I, for one, cannot wait. Ginger, thank you. And it will certainly take travel several more days to get back on schedule after the blizzard grounded flights by the thousands at major airports throughout the Northeast. Here's Gio Benitez.
Tonight, that monster blizzard paralyzing travel for millions. More than 11,000 flights canceled through tomorrow.
We're trying desperately to get home to the West Coast.
Almost every flight in and out of New York City and Boston grounded. We're at the top of the TWA hotel right now, looking down at the tarmac here at JFK, and you can't see anything because I can't see anything. It is a total whiteout. Right now, no planes are taking off or landing. At New York's LaGuardia, passengers sleeping on benches. In Philadelphia, the snow-bearing runways faster than plows could keep up.
My first flight was out of Newark yesterday night, canceled. Rebooked for this morning in Philadelphia, canceled.
The ripple effects being felt nationwide. Kyle Newman stranded in Miami.
I've been trying to get to Philly or DC, but there's no flights till Wednesday or Thursday.
Seems like the train may be a better mode of transportation at this point. Gio joins us now from JFK. Gio, how long can we expect air travel into and out of the Northeast to continue to be a headache?
Well, Lindsay, the issue is that planes are out of place at this point. In fact, looking here at the tarmac, we don't see any planes here. That's because they had to move these planes out, keep them safe, put them somewhere else. So now everything has to get back in place, and that's going to take some time. It's probably going to take a few days to get everything back on track, Lindsay.
All right, Gio, thanks so much. Now to dramatic new video of the military operation that targeted and killed Mexico's most wanted cartel leader. A barrage of gunfire and explosions were heard while violence erupted in popular tourist areas, and Americans have been warned to shelter in place. Here's Whit Johnson from the U.S.-Mexico border.
Tonight, Americans in popular tourist spots from Puerto Vallarta to Tijuana urged to shelter in place amid waves of violence after Mexican authorities said they killed a powerful drug cartel boss. At Guadalajara Airport, panicked travelers racing to safety.
They are urging people, do not go outside. Everything is closed. Shelter in place. This is very serious.
Mexican officials say Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, head of the Jalisco New Generation cartel, was killed in an operation Sunday that also left nearly 3 dozen other cartel members dead. For the first time, video posted online and verified by ABC News showing part of that operation, followed by a barrage of gunfire and blasts. Overnight, the White House saying the U.S. provided intelligence support to the Mexican government and calling El Mencho one of the top traffickers of fentanyl. The cartel responding with violence, turning beach towns into war zones, setting up hundreds of fiery roadblocks. Multiple businesses and vehicles set ablaze. The airport in Puerto Vallarta suspending all flights for a time, passengers evacuating on the tarmac. Today, some operations returning to normal.
Lindsay, the State Department says they've been in contact with hundreds of Americans in Mexico. Despite the widespread damage, the situation appears to be improving, but they're urging U.S. citizens to call their 24-hour hotline if they're unable to leave the country. Lindsay?
Whit, thank you. Joining us now for more on this is David Mora. He's a senior analyst for the International Crisis Group in Mexico. David, thanks so much for joining us tonight. What's it like on the ground in Guadalajara right now? President Claudia Sheinbaum said that peace, security, and normalcy are being maintained across the country, but are most people still staying home and avoiding public places?
So, Lindsay, things are slowly crawling back to normalcy here in Guadalajara, compared to, say, yesterday when it was practically a ghost town. And let's remind that this is a city with over 5 million people and a city where all businesses were shut down. Doing something as getting a taco, which should be the easiest thing in Mexico, was really hard. I had to line up for hours just to find food and water. People were mostly sheltering in place. Ride-sharing applications like Uber, they stopped working. The government suspended public transportation. That was yesterday. Today, though, you are seeing more people on the streets. They're kind of like some businesses are reopening now. So things are slowly moving back to normal.
El Mencho was the most wanted cartel boss in Mexico. What impact will this have on the flow of drugs into the United States?
Unfortunately, if we look at the most recent history, when a cartel is weakened by removing the head of the snake, if you wish, the impact on the actual drug production and trafficking is not really clear. I'm talking about Sinaloa and what happened with El Mayo Zambada and fentanyl production. According to the U.S. government, overdose deaths are down, and they link that to the ongoing situation in Sinaloa. However, there are other reasons that might explain why overdose deaths in the U.S. are going down. According to my research here in Mexico and in the U.S., for instance, fentanyl prices have not lowered, which speaks to the supply being very active. So if we look at that experience in Sinaloa, we might assume that there's going to be little to no impact in the production and trafficking of the highly lethal fentanyl into the U.S.
Do you expect more violence in Guadalajara in the coming days and weeks as a power vacuum ensues? And do you think that this could spread to other parts of Mexico?
So it has already spread. The violence has sprawled out into other neighboring states of Jalisco. But there are two different things happening here. The immediate reaction of the cartel, telling the government, don't attack us anymore. We're going to revenge the killing of El Mencho, which is what we're seeing in the immediate aftermath yesterday, today, and potentially tomorrow. The blockades that we're seeing on the screen, for instance. But there's the other type of violence that is going to take a few weeks to months to develop, which is first what's going to happen within the cartel in this power struggle, this power vacuum, as you said, that the government just created. And the other one, how other smaller groups that were enemies of the Jalisco cartel in other states of Mexico, how they're going to react, because they might see this as an opportunity, as an invitation to seize, to gain the upper hand against Jalisco on the turf wars that they were battling.
David Mora, we thank you so much for your time and insight. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
An investigation is now underway into a security breach at Mar-a-Lago. A 21-year-old suspect was shot and killed after allegedly carrying a shotgun and gas canister inside the secure perimeter. Pierre Thomas has the latest.
Tonight, authorities investigating how a 21-year-old man was able to breach the secure perimeter of President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home, allegedly armed with this shotgun and a gas can, and whether that young man, identified as Austin Tucker Martin, may have been motivated by an obsession with the Justice Department files on sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Police say Martin snuck onto Mar-a-Lago grounds in the dead of night on Sunday around 1:30 a.m., but he was spotted at the North Gate and confronted by the Secret Service and a sheriff's deputy.
He put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the two Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat.
Martin died at the scene, and tonight investigators trying to piece together what brought him there. Sources tell us they believe he drove 10 hours to Florida from his home in North Carolina, where his family had reported him missing on Saturday. Police think he may have purchased the gun on the way. His alleged motive for being there is still a mystery. But sources tell us when officers searched Martin's car, they found writings related to the Epstein files. President Trump was not in Florida at the time, instead choosing to spend the weekend back at the White House.
Pierre Thomas joins us now. Pierre, we know that the FBI is taking the lead on this investigation. Meanwhile, FBI Director Kash Patel was not in D.C. at the time of the security breach. We know he was in Italy celebrating with the U.S. men's gold medal win in hockey. What's Patel and the FBI now saying about his trip?
Well, you're right. The FBI is taking the lead, Lindsay. FBI Director Patel was in Italy during the Olympics when the incident happens. This video shows him in the locker room celebrating with the U.S. men's hockey team after they won the gold medal. Right there chugging a beer. Patel flew on the FBI jet to Italy, American taxpayers picking up the tab. He says he was, quote, humbled to be invited to the locker room. And the FBI insisting tonight that he had official business in Italy. Officials say the trip was long planned and that any personal expenses would be reimbursed, Lindsay.
Pierre Thomas for us. Thanks so much, Pierre. Nick Reiner pled not guilty today to murdering his parents, Rob and Michelle Reiner. It was the first time Nick Reiner has appeared on camera since he was charged with the murders. Meanwhile, Conan O'Brien broke his silence about the party held the night before the Reiners were found dead. ABC's Trevor Ault has the latest.
Tonight we're seeing Nick Reiner on camera for the first time since he was charged with the murders of his parents, iconic director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle. Nick Reiner today appearing in a Los Angeles courtroom pleading not guilty.
A plea of not guilty is entered on behalf of Mr. Reiner.
With his recently appointed public defender, Reiner sat calmly behind a glass partition. Reiner has a well-known history of mental health and substance abuse problems. The night before his parents were found stabbed to death in their L.A. home, sources say Nick and his father got into an argument at Conan O'Brien's holiday party where Nick was described as acting strangely. O'Brien is now breaking his silence in an interview with The New Yorker.
To have that experience of saying goodnight to somebody and having them leave and then find out the next day that they're gone, I think I was in shock for quite a while afterwards.
Trevor Ault joins us now. Trevor, so what's next for Nick Reiner?
So, Lindsay, Nick Reiner is still being held without the possibility of bail, and in the interim, he won't appear back in court until the end of April for a preliminary hearing. Usually that would go faster, but that was the thing he agreed to waive, the speedy preliminary hearing. So that is not for a couple months. And also hanging over all of this with a potential trial approaching, Lindsay, he could still change his plea to not guilty by reason of insanity. Lindsay?
Trevor Ault for us. Thanks so much, Trevor. Former UK ambassador to the U.S. Lord Peter Mandelson was arrested today on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Mandelson has been under investigation over allegations that he shared market-sensitive information with Jeffrey Epstein while he was a government minister. Mandelson resigned on February 1st over his ties with the convicted sex offender. All of this comes just days after the king's brother, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office connected to his ties with Epstein. Let's bring in ABC News Royal contributor Victoria Murphy. She is author of The Queen, A Life in Pictures. Victoria, thank you so much for joining us. As you know, video shows Mandelson being escorted from his London home by officers similar to what happened to former Prince Andrew. What more do we know about Mandelson's arrest?
Good evening. Well, yes, that video of Peter Mandelson being escorted from his home everywhere today, and his arrest makes the second very high-profile arrest in connection with the fallout from the Epstein files here. Peter Mandelson, you know, a huge political figure here, a former government minister, and the most recent appointment that he held was, of course, British ambassador to the US. He was actually sacked from that post last September after less than a year as more information emerged about his links to Epstein. He has been under investigation by police since the beginning of this month. but we have this arrest now. Now, to be clear, Mandelson has been arrested under suspicion of the same allegations as Andrew, that's misconduct in public office, but these are two very separate investigations. Andrew is being investigated by Thames Valley Police, which covers the Windsor area, and Peter Mandelson was arrested today by the Metropolitan Police, and he is facing allegations that he sent market-sensitive information to Jeffrey Epstein while he was a government minister. And I should also say that both Peter Mandelson and former Prince Andrew have previously strenuously denied any wrongdoing.
And following Andrew's arrest, the UK government is considering legislation to remove him from the line of succession. How likely do you think that is to happen?
Well, actually, there's a lot of momentum behind the idea of this now. He's still technically eighth in line to the throne, and many people feel that symbolically that just isn't right, despite the fact that practically he's nowhere near inheriting the throne. Government has indicated that they will introduce legislation. They intend to introduce legislation to change that because that's the only way that it can be changed. And actually, today, the Australian Prime Minister put a bit of momentum behind this by writing to our Prime Minister and indicating his support for this, because any legislation needs the support of the 14 other countries that also have King Charles as head of state. But it's been made clear that our government wouldn't introduce legislation until after any police investigation is complete. I think very mindful that it's not for government to step in until that police process has taken place.
How is the royal family reacting to these high-profile arrests?
Well, in the case of former Prince Andrew, we did have that one statement from King Charles, which we know that the rest of the family supports. But other than that, they have not said anything at all about Epstein since the arrest. They have carried on very much as they do. I'm not sure about keeping calm. William actually told somebody yesterday at the BAFTA Awards that he was not in a calm state. He didn't specifically mention his uncle Andrew, but those comments have been widely interpreted as giving a bit of an indication into how he feels right now. Maybe not calm, but very much carrying on.
Victoria Murphy, thank you so much, as always, for your insight and time.
Thank you.
Tomorrow night, President Trump will give his State of the Union address to Congress and the American people. The president has been facing questions about the economy, Iran, and his immigration crackdown. ABC's Mary Bruce is at the White House with what we can expect. Hi, Mary.
Lindsay, tomorrow night, all eyes will be on those Supreme Court justices invited to sit right there in the front row at President Trump's State of the Union address. The president hasn't stopped lashing out at them since they dealt a major blow to his economic agenda. Today, he called their tariffs ruling, quote, ridiculous, dumb, and very internationally divisive. He says he actually couldn't care less if the justices show up tomorrow night for what he's predicting will be a, quote, long speech. Now, Trump is adamant he can easily get around the court's ruling. He's quickly imposed a 15% tariff on all U.S. trading partners, but that expires in 150 days. Still, Trump today insisted he has many other options that can, quote, all be used in a much more powerful and obnoxious way. Lindsay.
Mary, thank you. ABC News will have full coverage of President Trump's State of the Union address and the Democratic response tomorrow night. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern on ABC News Live and at 9 p.m. Eastern on ABC, and then join us again on ABC News Live at 11 o'clock. A federal judge has permanently blocked the release of special counsel Jack Smith's report on President Trump's handling of classified documents that he stored at Mar-a-Lago after his first term. U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon, who was nominated by Trump, said that releasing the report would go against, quote, basic notions of fairness and justice. Cannon had previously dismissed the case itself against Trump, concluding in 2024 that Smith was unlawfully serving as special counsel. A second request by Trump's legal team to have the report destroyed was denied by Cannon. And still ahead, the murder trial begins for the Utah mother and children's book author accused of killing her husband. Plus, is achieving the American dream through hard work still a reality in 2026? We ask Americans across the country to find out. And thousands of people flock to this annual spectacle to witness one of nature's greatest optical illusions. In this country, there's long been a notion that if you work hard enough, anything is possible. Talking, of course, about the American dream. You can come from anywhere and with anything, make it. But is that still a reality in 2026? We traveled the country to talk with Americans about their bills and budgets. These weren't political conversations. They were simply an attempt to figure out if that dream is still within reach. Here's a portion of our special My Reality, The American Dream.
On this cold winter day, 34-year-old Simone Wilkes heads out carrying the weight of an empty pantry.
I love snow, Mommy. Even though they were saying, stay in the house, don't drive. I said, no, I gotta go to the food bank.
How far away is the food bank?
It's about like 2 miles down.
Simone works part-time as a community outreach specialist and is raising 2 young sons.
I would drop Dyson off at school. He got to be to school at 8:35. Then once I drop him off, I'll come down and I'll jump in line and just wait until it's my turn.
Most weeks, the food runs out within an hour. Because she has to drop off her son at school, Simone often leaves empty-handed. But this week, she gets a break.
Dyson school was closed, so we got here directly at 8 o'clock, and it's 9:28. I've never been this close before. I'm always all the way back there.
Every Friday, we service about 185 families every week. We're like the mailman. We're out here in all weathers. The community still has to eat.
Hopefully they have some raisins. All these pallets usually be gone when I get up here. This is very frustrating to be sitting in line for 2 hours and to only get a cabbage and a fruit juice. Because I'm thinking I'm gonna get enough to feed them through the week. And we gotta split a cabbage and an energy drink. Those are potatoes? Ooh, fresh apples, yeah. It's just heartbreaking that once you get up there, they just say, oh, this is what we have left, this is what we have left. But, I mean, I understand that they don't have enough food to feed everybody. I understand that. I'm not mad at that. I just wish I could be better, do better. So I won't have to go through this. Darling, get your hat.
Simone makes $600 a month. Her bills are piling up.
You just want to be big and strong? No, I want to be tiny. You want to be tiny? Yeah.
Every month, she's forced to make the same cruel choice, rent or food.
I try to maintain with what I do have, like the little job I do got. I'm so grateful for it because it could be a whole lot worse. I could not have no job, you know.
But her salary seldom reaches the end of the month.
Give me a sense of your monthly bills and how far the $600 goes each month.
Okay, so rent is $250 because I'm on Section 8. Car insurance is $200. Lights is $117. My cell phone bill, $53. Gas, $40. Food, $250. Oh, internet is $65.
So this is already about $1,000.
Yes.
So you're already about $400 short every month.
Our next stop, a middle-class suburb in Queens, New York, once home to thousands of working-class families.
When I think of Queens, I think of homes like this, streets like this, where people came thinking that they could achieve the American dream. These homes were considered affordable and accessible. And now these homes are selling in excess of $800,000.
Just down the street, we met Brian Lehman. His family has lived here in Queens for 5 generations.
You've never been here? You ever been here? You ever been in Glendale? Come on. Cheers. Brian Lehman. I'm a union steam fitter, local 638. I just turned my 22nd year in a union. Thank you for spending your little bit of time in our world.
Tell me about this neighborhood. This is where you grew up?
Right down the hill, 64th Place. My uncle had the house in 1975. That is the Lehman home where my father was raised. Homes on this block. It was my aunt and uncle, my great uncle, and my one cousin. That is my childhood home. We came here in 1979, and it was a great neighborhood. It was a great place to grow up. You knew everyone.
For many, owning a home has been a cornerstone of the American dream. Yet the cost of the average home is now almost $400,000.
My boys cannot afford to buy the home they're being raised in, and it's a problem. The middle class has been crushed. And this is us. This is Myrtle Avenue. This is life. You have Stop and Shop, Wait Night. That was a gas station in 1980. It's kind of where I hung out. Let's go shopping.
He buys the weekly special, an Economy Buster freezer package.
We got this package minus the eggs, and you are looking at three small dinners. Not breakfast, not lunch, not brunch. 3 small dinners. That's it. We're all doing more with less. You don't go out to eat anymore, or as much. In the places we used to go to, we cannot. My son is 16, the other one's 11. It's unaffordable to shop. You cut where you can, and it's getting harder and harder and harder with all of the rising costs, not just food, utilities, insurance. You're working more for less. And it's not the way to live in America. It's just not. It's wrong.
Would you say that you feel you're living paycheck to paycheck?
Absolutely. I don't know anyone that's not living paycheck to paycheck.
Our full special, My Reality, The American Dream, is streaming on Hulu and Disney+. Coming up, as Ukraine marks 4 years of brutal war this winter, Russia is weaponizing the cold as Ukrainians deal with the coldest temperatures since the start of the conflict. And the Trump name could soon be on top of one country's tallest building. Welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. The blizzard that slammed the Northeast should prove historic, with at least 5 states recording more than 2 feet of snow in some areas. Travel bans are now being lifted in parts, but more than 11,000 flights have been canceled through tomorrow. And it's hard to believe, but we're already tracking 2 more storms in the Northeast over the next 10 days. 9 Camp Mystic families are suing Texas officials after the deaths of their children in the July 4th flood this past summer. The lawsuit claims the Texas Department of State Health Services violated their daughter's constitutional rights to life and bodily integrity, claiming the state licensed the camp despite its alleged failure to comply with state law requiring camps to have evacuation plans. Opening statements were made today in the trial of Corey Richins, who was accused of killing her husband with a lethal dose of fentanyl, then writing a children's book about coping with grief. Prosecutors told the court Richins racked up millions in debt and sought to inherit $4 million from her husband's estate. Defense lawyers shared the 911 call Richins made the night that her husband died, saying her cries were those of a wife becoming a widow. Richins faces several charges, including aggravated murder, and has pleaded not guilty. The DHS has reversed a decision to temporarily suspend the TSA's pre-check program due to what the agency described as a lapse in funding due to the partial government shutdown. However, DHS's suspension of the global entry program, allowing certain paying travelers through U.S. customs more quickly, still remains in effect. And still ahead, with Russian missiles often targeting Ukrainian power plants as well as citizens in their homes, how are Ukrainians surviving this brutal winter? We'll show you. And American alpine skier Lindsey Vonn reveals the shocking worst-case scenario that thankfully did not come to pass after horrific fall at the Winter Olympics. Welcome back, everyone. In the past few months, Ukrainians have had to face their worst winter since Vladimir Putin launched his full-scale war. Tomorrow marks 4 years since that invasion, and Russian attacks have since crippled Ukraine's energy system. Attacks in recent months have escalated against thermal plants and against Ukrainian citizens in their homes, meaning hundreds of thousands often have to spend days without heat, without power, without water, in temperatures that have sometimes dipped below zero. Our chief correspondent, Ian Panel, has this story.
This is the cruelest winter of war in Ukraine. For nearly 4 years, Russia's tried to break the will of the nation by ruthlessly targeting Ukraine's heating grid. After years of repeated attacks, it finally appears to be succeeding. Kyiv suffering the coldest temperatures in years, reaching as low as -5 degrees Fahrenheit in some nights, rarely above freezing. The Russian strikes have left millions of Ukrainians without light or heat and often water, sometimes for weeks.
Я считаю, что я не обязан ни дуться, ни гнуться, понимаете, просто. А ситуация реально...
For Ukrainians, it's a daily fight for survival. Finding ways to keep living through the cold and the dark.
I live on this floor. It looks cozy, but it's cold.
Irina Tsilik's apartment building is in one of the worst affected areas in Kyiv, Troyeshina.
So this is the temperature now, 7 degrees. Okay, it was 6 in the morning.
The day we visited, it's -4 degrees Fahrenheit outside. After Russia knocked out the power, the building's pipes froze and then burst, causing catastrophic flooding.
The temperatures are too low. So when the workers tried to restart the system of the heating, you see how pipes broke.
Downstairs in the basement, workmen are trying to repair the damaged system. Irina meeting her elderly neighbour going into her apartment.
Pani Valentina, she lives in the same building as I am, and she lives alone.
Valentina is in her 90s and also without heating.
Pani Valentina, she's always so brave and full of optimism that I already told her that she's my role model.
Но главное, чтобы были здоровы.
Да.
Самое главное в жизни.
Ordinary life in Kyiv is increasingly complex. The roar of generators is now constant.
Тут даже свечка.
Living life in the dark is the new normal. At home, people are turning to inventive ways to stay warm. Even heating bricks. Authorities are setting up more and more so-called invincibility points. Heated military-style tents where people can warm up and recharge their phones. Ukrainians know their spirit is being tested by Russia. The young responding with defiance. Recently, hundreds partying on a frozen reservoir. But the reality is an unending winter of discontent for so many. Yekaterina says she's reached a breaking point. Worried for her young son, she made the difficult decision to leave Kyiv for Istanbul, Turkey.
Ну, можно попробовать пожить, но с ребенком это уже я не знаю. Сейчас я считаю крайне вообще критическая точка, что ну вот просто... Я считаю, с детьми это сидеть там просто преступление.
A growing number of people are leaving the capital, at least for the winter. Part of the Kremlin's strategy, trying to make Ukraine unlivable, hoping to force the government to capitulate in negotiations.
Вот так вот, как марионетками играют тобой. Вот, ой, а что будет, если мы вам выключим свет? А что будет, если не вы? А выживете вы, вот электричество не будет? А еще погода -25. А вот что вы будете делать? Ну, в общем, вот так вот играют, как хотят, как пешками просто.
But Yekaterina says she believes she will go back. And that despite the brutal winter, Ukrainians won't give up.
Still fighting, still surviving. Our thanks to Ian Pannell for that. Coming up, the controversy swirling after what was left in and what was left out of last night's broadcast of the BAFTAs, also known as the British Oscars. And in other entertainment news, there'll soon be a new movie about the making of the 1961 classic Breakfast at Tiffany's. So who gets to play Audrey Hepburn in her iconic role as socialite Holly Golightly? Stay with us. A golden year for Team USA. The new Breakfast at Tiffany's film announces their choice to portray Audrey Hepburn, and Yosemite's Fire Fall makes its annual debut. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. A record-setting Winter Olympics for Team USA, which closed the Winter Games with 12 gold medals, including the U.S. men's hockey team, who took home the gold this weekend. And in the celebrations that followed, the team held a number 13 jersey honoring teammate Johnny Gaudreau, who was killed by an alleged drunk driver in 2024. His children were brought on the ice to share the moment. A team member shared, "I feel like he's following us. He's got our back." And in other Winter Olympics news, Lindsey Vonn shared today that she almost lost her left leg after a crash earlier this month. Her leg was clipped at a gate as she sailed off course just 13 seconds into her run during the women's downhill tournament. The 41-year-old Olympian said that the crash led to compartment syndrome, and if it wasn't treated quickly, it could have led to permanent injury. Vonn thanked her doctor, Tom Hackett, the orthopedic surgeon, for conducting a fasciotomy to salvage her leg, saying, "He saved me." Today, the Toyota racing team signed a 13-year-old to a long-term driver deal. Keelan Harvick is the son of Kevin Harvick, an awarded race car driver. Growing up around racing, Keelan said his main goal is to be just like his dad and follow in his footsteps. Toyota said that they have a detailed schedule for the teenager to compete in dozens of late model races nationwide. ExxonMobil will be his primary sponsor. The Trump Organization signed a deal today to build a $1 billion tower in Australia. The 91-story skyscraper is set to become the country's tallest building. Developers say it will include 270 apartments, a beach club, swimming pool, shops, and a 6-star resort hotel. The property developer company said that it's great for Queensland tourism and Australia. Today, Lily Collins announced that she will portray Audrey Hepburn in a movie about the making of Hepburn's 1961 classic film, Breakfast at Tiffany's, which won 2 Oscars and was nominated for 5 in total, including Best Actress for Hepburn. The new movie is based on a book that is described as the first complete account of the making of the film, telling the story of a chaotic pre-production and behind-the-scenes moves that created one of the most influential romantic comedies of all time. Collins says that the new film spent nearly 10 years in development. And visitors to Yosemite National Park in California are in for a visual treat. The picturesque Horsetail Waterfall will light up and become a firefall as sunlight hits the falling water just right at sunset. The rare visual spectacle happens every winter for a week or two when the conditions align perfectly. The illusion only happens for a few minutes in the evening, and the entire event is expected to last until the end of the week. We move on now to the British Academy of Film and Television Arts, also known as the BAFTAs, where a night of celebration turned to controversy as the broadcast received criticism when the BBC aired a racial slur while actors Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were on stage. The slur was shouted out by John Davidson, who has an involuntary vocal tic, a rare symptom of Tourette's syndrome. He was there representing the film I Swear, which is based on his life and his disorder. The pre-recorded broadcast chose to air the offensive language while they decided other portions should be edited out. I want to bring in Variety's Chief Awards Editor, Clayton Davis. Clayton, thanks for coming on. This is really a nuanced conversation here. On one hand, we have a deeply offensive word being thrown out to 2 black presenters, and from a person who has a disability that includes involuntary tics. What do we know both in the theater leading up to the show and what ultimately aired?
Thank you for having me, Lindsay. And yes, this is a very nuanced conversation. And it's one that we frankly need to have because we want to create a space in which people with disabilities can feel included in a space such as the BAFTA Awards, where a movie about their life is being celebrated. But we also have to protect those who may not, who may be subject to these slurs that aren't intentionally directed at them, but are still there nonetheless. And what happened here, where according to our reporting, BAFTA, the floor managers had notified people that there was someone in the room that had Tourette's syndrome among them, which they had announced out loud. They got a round of applause. John Davidson received a round of applause from the people in the room, but saying Tourette's syndrome isn't specific enough. People like Billie Eilish have Tourette's syndrome. Obviously, it's not the Tourette's syndrome in which John Davidson has, in which he uses offensive slurs. So Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were left there on stage to endure and hear this vile language, and people on the internet do not have the context or the education to understand that this was involuntary. And they really failed Michael, they failed Delroy, they failed John. And the failure is on BBC and BAFTA for not clipping this out when it was tape delayed by 2 hours in the UK.
Have we gotten any explanation as to why they did not?
No explanation at this point. They did apologize, BAFTA and the BBC, but quite frankly, to my reporting up until the middle of the night last night, no one had even reached out to Delroy Lindo or Michael B. Jordan directly to apologize for the incident. John Davidson here is someone that is not intentionally spewing hate. Again, I think this is an educational opportunity. And this is coming from someone, a dad myself, who is the dad of a young boy who has autism, who scripts and sometimes says things out of context. And these are the fears that parents have for kids with disabilities, but that doesn't excuse not putting the parameters and safeguards in place to protect those like Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo and the entire cast and artisans team of Sinners that would have to hear that without any context and only hearing about it minutes as they walked in and not days before, in which they can prepare or put other things in place so that this doesn't get out of hand. This could have turned into an even worse situation than what was there.
All right, Clayton Davis, thank you so much for your insight. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
John Davidson, who voluntarily left the ceremony early, released a statement which said in part, "I am and always have been deeply mortified if anyone considers my involuntary tics to be intentional or to carry any meaning. I've spent my life trying to support and empower the Tourette's community and to teach empathy, kindness, and understanding from others, and I will continue to do so." The BAFTAs apologized in a statement saying in part that the profoundly offensive term was heard by many people in the room. Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were on stage at the time, and we apologize unreservedly to them and to all of those impacted. The BBC apologized and says that the offensive word will be edited out of future versions of the playback. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Lindsay Davis. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us.